The frozen Caravela. When the Caravela's hull first touched the frozen sea, it made no dramatic sound, just a quiet groan of wood meeting ice, like an old door settling into its frame. You stand on the gently tilting deck, watching frost form along the railing in delicate patterns, and you understand with calm certainty that your journey has transformed into something slower, something quieter, something that will teach you the art of survival through stillness rather than struggle. The year is 1704, and you are among 37 peasants sailing north toward what maps promised would be fertile land. The Caravela Maria's Grace has carried you steadily for 3 months across cold waters, and now the sea itself has turned solid beneath you. Not with violence, but with the patient insistence of winter claiming what belongs to it. You breathe slowly, watching your breath form clouds that hang in the still air before dissolving. Around you, other passengers move with careful deliberation across the deck. No one panics. Peasants understand seasons, understand waiting, understand that nature moves at its own pace, and fighting it wastes precious energy. The captain, a weathered man named Thomas Brennan, gathers everyone near the main mast. His voice is steady, almost soothing. "The ice has us," he says simply. "We're 300 miles from any known shore. The ship won't move again until spring, if it moves at all. So we adapt, we learn, we survive by becoming students of the cold." You look out across the frozen expanse. The ice stretches in every direction, white and pristine, marked only by occasional pressure ridges where the sea's movement pushed frozen sheets against each other before locking them in place. The sky above is pale gray, luminous with diffused sunlight. Everything feels suspended, peaceful, waiting. The silence that follows Thomas's words is profound but not frightening. It's the silence of acceptance, of minds already beginning to adapt to new reality. You notice how the cold air feels cleaner somehow, sharper, carrying no scent except the faint mineral tang of frozen salt water. Margaret Collins, a woman in her mid-30s with careful eyes and steady hands, steps forward. She was a merchant's clerk before this voyage, skilled with numbers and organization. "We'll need to inventory everything," she says quietly. "Every plank, every rope, every scrap of food. We need to know exactly what we have." Thomas nods approvingly. "Margaret, you'll manage our supplies. Account for everything. We ration carefully from the start." Around you, other peasants begin volunteering their skills. Robert Mason, a blacksmith whose massive hands are scarred from years of forge work, offers to build whatever structures might be needed. Samuel Price, an elderly fisherman with eyes permanently squinted from decades of watching horizons, shares that he's worked these northern waters before and knows something of ice. A younger man named William Hart, barely 20, asks the question everyone is thinking: how long will we be here? Thomas considers this carefully before answering. "Until the ice releases us, or until we find another way forward. Could be weeks, could be months. We don't control the timeline. We only control how we respond to it." The first night on the frozen sea is an education in cold. As the pale sun dips toward the horizon, never fully setting this far north, just grazing the edge of the world, the temperature drops with startling speed. You feel it in layers. First, your face grows numb. Then your fingers begin to ache inside your gloves. Then the cold finds its way through your coat, through your shirt, seeming to settle directly against your skin. The 37 of you crowd into the Caravela's hold, pressing close together for warmth. The ship creaks and groans around you as ice pressure increases. Each sound makes some people tense, but Samuel's calm voice cuts through the anxiety. "The ship is talking," he explains. his voice carrying the patience of someone who has spent a lifetime listening to vessels. Wood contracts in the cold. Ice pushes against the hull. These sounds are normal. What we listen for is the sound of cracking, sharp, sudden, like a tree branch snapping. That would mean danger. These groans are just the ship settling into its new situation. Like us, it's adapting. His explanation soothes nerves. People shift, finding slightly more comfortable positions against neighbors, pulling threadbare blankets tighter. Someone begins humming a hymn, an old tune from English churches, slow and meditative. Others join in, creating harmonies that fill the hold with something warmer than the air around you. Catherine Ward, holding her infant son James against her chest, adds her voice to the song. The baby makes small sounds, not quite crying, just responding to the cold and the strangeness. Catherine adjusts the blankets around him, tucking every gap, ensuring no draft reaches his small body. You find yourself wedged between Robert on one side and a quiet older woman named Eleanor Price, Samuel's wife, on the other. Their body heat creates a small pocket of relative warmth. You close your eyes and focus on breathing slowly, conserving energy, letting your body adjust to this new reality. Outside, the ice continues its quiet work of freezing the sea solid. Inside, 37 souls begin learning the first lesson of Arctic survival. Patience is warmth, panic is cold. The night stretches long. Sleep comes in fragments, broken by cold, by discomfort, by the ship's constant creaking conversation with the ice. But morning does eventually arrive, bringing with it pale gray light that filters through the deck boards above. Thomas emerges first, climbing the ladder to the deck with careful movements. You follow, along with several others, curious to see what the night has brought. The world has transformed. Where yesterday the ice was a flat expanse with the ship settled into it, now pressure ridges have formed in the distance, great broken walls of ice pushed upward by forces beneath the surface. The frozen sea has revealed its dynamic nature. It's not static. It moves, shifts, breathes with the currents below and temperature changes above. "Beautiful," Margaret murmurs, standing beside you. She's already pulled out a small journal and begun sketching what she sees. Terrifying, but beautiful. Samuel joins you on deck, his experienced eyes scanning the ice field. "We need to build on the ice itself," he announces after a long moment of observation. "The ship will continue settling. Could take days, could take hours, but eventually the hull will breach and water will flood the hold. We need alternative shelter before that happens." His words carry no alarm, just simple fact. The group absorbs this calmly. Robert nods. "We have tools, we have wood, we have rope, we can build." "How do we build on ice?" William asks. "Won't it just melt under us?" "Not in this cold," Samuel replies. "The ice is 2 feet thick here, probably more. Our body heat won't penetrate that. But we build smart, structures that distribute weight, that can flex if the ice shifts, that use the cold as a tool instead of fighting it." Thomas organizes the group into teams. Some will dismantle parts of the ship carefully, salvaging planks and beams. Others will scout the immediate area on foot, testing ice thickness and finding the most stable locations for building. Margaret will continue inventorying supplies, creating careful lists of food, water, tools, and materials. You volunteer for the scouting team, along with Samuel, Eleanor, and a sturdy middle-aged farmer named Henry Shaw. Together, you step off the ship onto the ice. The sensation is strange. The ice is solid, absolutely solid, beneath your boots. It doesn't shift or crack. Yet you're walking on ocean. Somewhere far below, in darkness, fish are swimming. The thought is both wonderful and unsettling. Samuel teaches as you walk. Step deliberately, flat-footed, spread your weight. Listen to the ice. If it sings a high, clear note, the pressure is changing. If it groans deep, that's normal settling. Sharp cracks mean danger. Move slowly. The ice rewards patience. You practice this, feeling the way the ice responds to your weight. With each step, you grow more confident, but never careless. The cold has already taught you that carelessness has consequences. Eleanor, who has been quiet until now, speaks softly. My grandmother survived a terrible winter when I was young. The whole village nearly starved. She told me the secret was to move like winter itself. Slow, steady, inevitable. Don't fight the season. Become part of it. Her words settle over the group like snow. Don't fight the season. Become part of it. You walk perhaps 200 yards from the ship, testing the ice in different directions. Everywhere, it's solid, thick, stable. Samuel finally points to a flat area about 50 yards from the Caravela. Here, he says, high enough that if the ship breaks through and creates open water, we're safe. Close enough to salvage materials easily. Flat enough for building. The location is marked with a piece of cloth tied to a pole pushed through the ice into the water below. You return to the ship to report the findings. The work begins immediately, but with the unhurried pace that defines everything on the ice. Robert organizes the dismantling of the ship's upper structures. Carefully, methodically, planks are removed from non-essential sections. Each piece is examined for quality. Weak wood is set aside for fuel. Strong planks are earmarked for shelter building. Nothing is wasted. Margaret documents everything. Removed, 14 planks from starboard rail. Condition, good. Length, approximately 8 feet each. Purpose, shelter walls. Her careful accounting means everyone knows exactly what resources exist. The first planks are carried across the ice to the building site. You help with this, learning to move slowly, to watch your footing, to rest when needed rather than pushing through exhaustion. The cold makes every action more difficult. Your fingers grow numb quickly. Your breath comes harder. But the work continues, steady and patient. By midday, enough materials have been moved to begin actual construction. Robert sketches a design in the snow with a stick. A simple A-frame structure, low to the ice, designed to shed wind and snow accumulation. The walls will be double-layered with space between for insulation. We'll pack snow between the layers, he explains. Samuel taught me this. The air trapped in snow slows heat transfer. Natural insulation. William, eager to learn, asks questions about every detail. Robert answers each one patiently, turning the construction into an extended teaching session. Others gather to listen, to learn, to understand the principles that might keep them alive. The first beam is set in place, then another. Slowly, over hours, the structure begins to emerge from concept into reality. The work is meditative. Measure, cut, fit, secure. Measure, cut, fit, secure. The rhythm becomes automatic. Catherine sits nearby with baby James, watching the construction. She hums her lullabies, the sound mixing with the scrape of saws and the tap of hammers. Her presence is calming, a reminder that even here, in this frozen world, life continues. As the pale sun begins its evening descent, the frame of the first shelter stands complete. It's perhaps 12 feet long and 8 feet wide. Cramped quarters for 12 people, but adequate. Tomorrow the walls will go up, then the roof, then the insulation. Thomas calls everyone together as light fades. Good work today. We're building our survival one board at a time. Tomorrow we continue. Tonight we rest. We've earned it. The group returns to the ship for one final night in the hold. The hymns rise again, voices blending in the darkness. You close your eyes and feel the day's work settling into your muscles. Soreness, but also satisfaction. You're not helpless. You're adapting. You're learning to live on the ice. The second day brings a subtle shift in group dynamics. People wake more oriented to their new reality. The shock has faded. Acceptance has set in. You're not passengers anymore, waiting for a journey to resume. You're inhabitants of a frozen world, building a temporary home with permanent care. After a breakfast of hard biscuit and a small portion of dried fish, carefully rationed by Margaret, work teams form naturally. Some continue construction, others begin creating a second shelter. A few, led by Eleanor, start organizing the camp's interior space, determining where supplies will be stored, where cooking will happen, and where people will sleep. You join the construction team again. Today's task is walls. Robert has designed a system where planks interlock slightly, creating stability without rigid fastening. The ice moves, he reminds everyone. Our structures need to move with it. Rigid buildings crack. Flexible buildings survive. The work proceeds with yesterday's meditative rhythm. As you fit planks together, you notice how the cold has changed your perception of time. Minutes feel longer. Hours blend together. There's no rushing because rushing accomplishes nothing except exhaustion. Samuel approaches mid-morning with an observation. The ice is drifting, he announces calmly. See those distant pressure ridges? Yesterday they were southeast of us. Today they're almost due south. We're moving, slowly but definitely moving. Thomas joins him, studying the horizon. Which direction? Southeast, I think. The current beneath is carrying us. Maybe a mile or two per day. Hard to say exactly. Toward land or away from it? Samuel considers this. The charts showed land southeast of our last position. If the drift continues, we might be moving toward shore. Slowly, very slowly. This information spreads through the group. It doesn't change today's work, but it plants a seed of long-term hope. If the ice carries you toward land, survival becomes not just possible, but probable. You just need to last long enough for the journey to complete itself. Margaret adds this to her journal. Day 2. Observation. Ice drift noted. Direction southeast. Estimated 1 to 2 miles daily. This aligns with seasonal current patterns. Recommend monitoring daily for navigation awareness. By afternoon, the first shelter has walls. The structure looks sturdy, practical, almost welcoming, despite the harsh surroundings. Robert organizes a team to begin the roof while you help start the second shelter's foundation. William works beside you, his youthful energy channeled into careful labor. I thought I'd be terrified, he admits quietly, but this work, it's calming somehow. Like farming. Plant the seed, tend it, wait for growth. Build the shelter, tend it, wait for warmth. You nod, understanding exactly. The peasant skills that seemed useless on a voyage north turn out to be perfectly suited for survival. Patience, persistence, understanding that results come from steady effort, not dramatic action. As the second day ends, 2 shelter frames stand on the ice. Tomorrow, they'll have roofs. The day after, insulation. The work continues, unhurried and unstoppable. Day 3 brings the first real test of the shelters. A storm rolls in from the north during the night, not violent but persistent. Wind pushes across the ice with steady force, driving snow before it. The temperature drops noticeably. The Caravela groans under the assault, and you're grateful that some of the group has already moved into the completed first shelter. You're among those still sleeping on the ship. The hold feels colder than previous nights, as if the vessel is losing its ability to retain even minimal warmth. Ice has begun forming on the interior walls, delicate crystals that sparkle in lantern light. Morning reveals a transformed landscape. Snow has drifted against every surface. The shelter stands strong, its A-frame design shedding accumulation exactly as Robert predicted. But the ship has settled deeper into the ice, tilting at a more severe angle. The change is obvious, concerning. Thomas makes a decision. We accelerate the timeline. Everyone moves to the ice today. We finish the second and third shelters as quickly as possible, but carefully. Speed without care helps no one. We work steady, we work smart, we work together. The day becomes a study in organized urgency. An interesting contradiction. There's awareness that time matters, but also understanding that panic wastes time. So you move with purpose, but never recklessly. The second shelter's roof goes up. Margaret coordinates a supply transfer, moving food, blankets, tools from the ship to weatherproof containers on the ice. Robert builds a small, carefully controlled fire pit using stones from the ship's ballast, creating a space where ice can be melted for drinking water without the heat spreading dangerously. Catherine and Eleanor work on creating livable space inside the first shelter. They arrange sleeping areas, designate storage zones, establish simple rules for cohabitation. We'll sleep close together, Eleanor explains. Body heat shared is body heat multiplied. No one sleeps alone. No one stays cold while others stay warm. By midday, 12 people have moved permanently into the first shelter. By evening, 12 more occupy the second. The remaining 13, including you, work frantically but carefully on the third structure. The frame goes up. The walls follow. But as darkness falls, the roof remains incomplete. Thomas makes another decision. Those without shelter tonight double up in the two we have, cramped but warm. Tomorrow we finish the third shelter first thing. No one works into darkness. That's when accidents happen. So 24 people crowd into spaces designed for 12. You end up in the second shelter, pressed between strangers who feel less strange with each passing hour. The body heat is remarkable. Within 20 minutes, the temperature inside rises noticeably. Not warm, but survivable. Someone begins a story, an old folk tale about a clever farmer who outwitted winter. Others add to it, embellishing, creating entertainment from nothing but voices and imagination. Laughter fills the cramped space, incongruous but beautiful against the wind howling outside. You drift to sleep to the sound of that laughter, thinking how strange it is to find joy in such circumstances. But perhaps that's the secret. Joy isn't circumstantial, it's intentional. Day 4 begins with purpose. The third shelter must be completed today. Everyone understands this. The ship is clearly failing, settling deeper with each passing hour. By noon, water will likely breach the hold. Anyone still depending on the vessel for shelter will be in danger. But there's no panic, just focused, deliberate work. You join the roof team. Robert has designed a system using overlapping planks sealed with tar from the ship's stores. It's not elegant, but it's functional. Each plank must be positioned exactly, nailed securely, tested for stability before the next one goes on. William works beside you, learning carpentry through necessity. His hands are clumsy at first, but they grow more confident with each nail driven. "My father was a farmer," he says quietly, "never taught me building. Wish he had. This is satisfying work." "You're learning now," you reply. "That's what matters." The ice is teaching all of us skills we didn't know we needed. By mid-morning, the roof is half complete. By noon, 3/4. The ship groans ominously, leaning further. Water laps at the hold's lowest point. But the work continues, steady and unhurried. Margaret appears with a careful calculation. If we maintain current pace, completion in 3 hours. Ship will likely breach in 2. We need to accelerate slightly. Not rush, but eliminate breaks. Robert nods. Understood. Everyone, we work straight through. Deliberate speed. Careful urgency. We can do this. And you do. The final planks go up. The tar is applied. The roof is tested. Robert and Thomas both climb onto it, jumping gently to ensure it holds weight. It does. By mid-afternoon, all 3 shelters stand complete. The 37 of you stand before them. Simple structures, rough built, absolutely beautiful in their functionality. Thomas divides people into groups of 12, 12, and 13. These are your shelter families. You'll live together, sleep together, work together. Care for each other like blood relatives, because out here we are blood relatives. The ice has made us kin. You're assigned to the 3rd shelter, the one just completed. Your shelter family includes Samuel and Eleanor, William, Margaret, Catherine, and baby James, plus 6 others: Robert, Henry, a quiet woman named Ann Foster, a young couple named John and Mary Porter, and 2 brothers, David and Peter Wright. 13 souls who will share warmth, share resources, share survival. That evening, you all crowd into the new shelter for the first time. The space feels tight but not claustrophobic. Eleanor has arranged sleeping positions with thoughtful care. Strongest along the outer walls where cold is greatest, most vulnerable in the center where warmth concentrates. Baby James is positioned exactly in the middle, surrounded by bodies that will keep him warm through the night. Catherine's eyes shine with gratitude as she settles her son into his nest of blankets and loving proximity. Robert lights a small warming stone, a river rock heated in the fire pit, wrapped in cloth, placed in the shelter's center. It radiates gentle heat for hours, taking the sharp edge off the cold. As darkness settles, Samuel begins telling a story about his fishing days, his voice low and rhythmic. It's a story about waiting, about patience, about how the best catches come to those who can sit still longest. The metaphor isn't lost on anyone. You're all fishermen now, waiting in the cold for life to bite your hook. Days 5 through 10 establish the rhythm that will define your time on the ice. Each day begins similarly. Someone wakes first, usually Samuel, whose internal clock remained remarkably accurate, and quietly stirs the group to consciousness. No one jumps up. You rise slowly, allowing blood to circulate, joints to warm slightly, minds to engage with the day. The morning gathering happens outside the shelters, weather permitting. All 37 of you circle the fire pit where a tiny flame melts snow for drinking water. Each person receives a cup of warm water, not hot, but warm enough to spread heat through your core. This simple ritual becomes sacred. Thomas uses these morning gatherings to share information, make decisions, address concerns. His leadership style is collaborative, not dictatorial. "We're not a ship's crew anymore," he explained early on. "We're a community. Everyone's voice matters. Everyone's observations count." So people share what they've noticed: ice patterns, wind directions, bird sightings, rare but meaningful, suggesting open water somewhere in the distance. Temperature changes estimated by frost formation or snow texture. Margaret documents everything. Her journal grows thick with observations, sketches, calculations. She's become the community's memory, recording details that individual minds might lose. After the morning gathering, work teams form. There's always work. Maintaining shelters. Snow must be repacked in walls as it settles. Tarred seams must be checked. Structural integrity must be monitored. Gathering fuel. Planks from the ship are carefully rationed for fire. Creating tools. Robert fashions fishing hooks from nails, hoping to catch food through holes cut in the ice. The work happens slowly, punctuated by breaks when fingers grow too numb or breath becomes too labored. No one pushes past their limits. Exhaustion is as dangerous as cold. Midday brings the main meal: a small portion of ship's biscuit, a bit of dried fish or salt pork, sometimes a thin soup made by boiling the bones over and over until they give up every possible nutrient. Margaret's rationing is strict but fair. Everyone receives equal portions. No exceptions. Even Thomas, as leader, eats exactly what everyone else eats. Catherine nurses baby James, her own reduced rations somehow still producing enough milk to keep him fed. The other women, especially Eleanor and Margaret, ensure Catherine receives slightly more water, recognizing that her body is feeding too. Afternoons are quieter. People rest, conserve energy, engage in small tasks that don't require heavy labor. Anne Foster, who was a seamstress, teaches others to repair clothing with tiny, efficient stitches that use minimal thread. The Porter couple, John and Mary, work together reinforcing boots with scraps of canvas and tar, waterproofing them against the snow. William spends afternoons learning from anyone willing to teach. He learns knot work from Robert, ice reading from Samuel, accounting from Margaret, sewing from Anne. His hunger for knowledge is beautiful, a reminder that survival isn't just physical, it's intellectual, emotional, spiritual. Evenings bring storytelling. In each shelter, different traditions emerge. In yours, Samuel's fishing stories become a nightly ritual. In the first shelter, someone produces a battered harmonica and leads simple songs. In the second, people take turns sharing memories from home, gardens they tended, children they left behind, lives they hope to return to. The stories are gifts. They cost nothing, provide warmth that fire cannot, create community from isolation. Day 11 brings the first seal sighting. You're outside doing morning maintenance when William shouts and points. There, perhaps 50 yards away, a dark shape humps across the ice. A seal, fat and healthy, moving between breathing holes. Samuel's eyes light up. Protein, he breathes. Real food, if we can catch it. But catching a seal requires tools you don't have. Harpoons, nets, experience. The seal disappears into a hole before anyone can even approach it. Still, the sighting energizes everyone. Where there's one seal, there are others. And where there are seals, there's open water somewhere nearby, which means the ice field has edges, has boundaries, isn't an infinite prison. Robert immediately begins designing a harpoon from available materials. A long plank, whittled to a point, hardened in fire. Rope attached so a struck seal can't escape into the water. It's crude, but it might work. For 3 days, people take turns watching the seal holes. On day 14, another seal appears. This time, Robert is ready. He approaches slowly, harpoon raised, moving with extraordinary patience. 50 yards, 40, 30. The seal spots him and dives. But it's been a learning experience. Robert returns thoughtful. They're wary but not terrified. They've probably never seen humans. If we're patient enough, careful enough, we'll get one eventually. The seal hunting becomes a project, something to focus energy on beyond mere survival. It gives purpose, provides hope, teaches lessons about observation and timing. Meanwhile, Margaret's careful monitoring of supplies shows the reality of your situation. We have food for another 3 weeks, she announces on day 15. Maybe 4 if we reduce rations further. The seal, if we catch one, buys us another week. But unless the ice drifts us within walking distance of land soon, we'll face real hunger. The news is delivered calmly, received calmly. Panic serves no purpose. Better to know the truth and plan accordingly. Thomas organizes a scouting expedition. Himself, Samuel, Robert, and you. 4 people will walk southeast, following the drift direction, looking for any sign of land. You'll go carefully, testing ice, staying within sight of camp, but extending your knowledge of the surroundings. The expedition sets out on day 16, each person carrying a small pack with emergency supplies. The walking is strange at first. You've grown accustomed to the small territory around the shelters. Expanding beyond it feels both freeing and frightening. The ice under your feet is solid, thick, ancient. In some places, it's smooth as glass. In others, pressure ridges have created chaos. Broken blocks piled high, forming walls and valleys of frozen confusion. You navigate these carefully, sometimes crawling over obstacles, sometimes finding passages between them. After 2 hours of walking, you stop and look back. The camp is barely visible, 3 small dark shapes against endless white. The Caravela has vanished completely, finally claimed by the ice, settling into the frozen sea like a stone into mud. Ahead, the landscape continues unchanged, white, flat, empty. No sign of land, no sign of anything except more ice. Samuel studies the horizon with his experienced eyes. The drift is real, he confirms. See how the distant pressure patterns have shifted since this morning? We're moving, slow but steady, southeast, toward something. You return to camp after 4 hours, having walked perhaps 3 miles out and 3 miles back. The expedition found no land, but confirmed the drift and proved the ice is stable enough for longer journeys if needed. That night, you report findings to the gathered community. The news is neither good nor bad, just information. The ice holds, the drift continues. Land remains distant, but hopefully approaching. The community accepts this with characteristic patience. You're all learning to measure time in weeks and months, not hours and days. Days 17 through 25 blur together in a routine that becomes almost comfortable. The seal hunt continues. Robert perfects his harpoon technique through repeated attempts. On day 22, he finally succeeds, striking a seal that surfaced too confidently at its breathing hole. The animal is hauled onto the ice, dispatched quickly and respectfully. The seal provides an astonishing amount of food. Margaret portions it carefully, fresh meat for immediate consumption, the rest preserved in snow caches where the cold keeps it frozen solid. Blubber is rendered for lamp oil, providing light in the shelters for the first time since arriving on the ice. The skin is cleaned and treated, becoming patches for boots and gloves. Nothing is wasted. Bones are boiled for broth, then carved into tools. Tendons become thread. Even the whiskers find use as needles. That night, each shelter cooks fresh seal meat over careful fires. The smell is overwhelming after weeks of dried fish and hard biscuit. The taste brings some people to tears. It's not just food, it's hope made physical, proof that the ice can provide. Catherine's milk production increases almost immediately with better nutrition. Baby James, who had been worryingly quiet, becomes more active, making small sounds that are music to everyone's ears. The seal's success energizes the hunting efforts. Teams rotate watching the breathing holes. More seals are spotted, though catching them remains difficult. Still, on day 27, a second seal is taken. Then another on day 31. The hunts become almost ceremonial. Before each one, Samuel speaks a quiet blessing, not to any particular god, but to the ice itself, thanking it for providing, asking it to continue its generosity. The ritual helps everyone feel connected to this frozen world, less like prisoners and more like participants in its strange ecosystem. Meanwhile, the shelters evolve. Eleanor organizes a thorough cleaning routine. Snow is brought inside and used to scrub the floors, then swept out, carrying dirt and debris with it. Anne creates small comfort items from scraps, a cushion stuffed with seal fur, a hanging pocket for personal items, a curtain that can partition sleeping areas. These small touches matter enormously. They transform survival shelters into homes, however temporarily. William has grown visibly. Not taller, but stronger, more confident. He's learned multiple skills, absorbed countless lessons, become someone the community relies on. When the fire pit needs rebuilding, William does it. When a shelter needs repair, William volunteers. He's found purpose in the ice. Margaret's journal now fills multiple volumes. She's been using spare paper from the ship's logs, writing in increasingly tiny script to conserve space. Her documentation has become incredibly detailed, recording not just what happens, but why, how, what lessons can be drawn. Someday, she explains one evening, someone else might face this. Trapped on ice, far from land, running low on supplies. If we survive, our lessons could save them. If we don't, at least our experience might teach them what not to do. Her dedication to documenting everything inspires others to think about legacy. What will you leave behind? What do you want future generations to know about these days? Day 33 brings a storm that tests everything you've built. It arrives with little warning. The wind simply begins to rise, shifting from steady breeze to aggressive force within an hour. Snow follows, not falling from the sky, but seeming to rise from the ice itself, whipped horizontal by the wind. Thomas orders everyone into the shelters. Don't come out until the storm passes, not for anything. We ride this out together. For 20 hours, the storm rages. The wind screams across the ice, finding every gap in the shelter walls, every weakness in the construction. Snow drifts pile against the windward sides until the shelters are half buried. The temperature drops to levels you didn't think possible. Inside your shelter, 13 people press together in absolute darkness. No one dares light even a small flame for fear of using precious oxygen. You breathe each other's air, share each other's warmth, listen to each other's prayers and soft reassurances. The shelter holds. Robert's careful engineering, the flexible design that allows movement, the snow insulation, all of it works exactly as intended. The walls shake but don't break. The roof flexes but doesn't tear. You're protected. During the worst hours, Catherine's lullabies rise above the wind. Her voice trembles but doesn't fail. Others join in, creating harmony that transforms the terrifying howl outside into a strange duet, nature's fury answered by human resilience. When the storm finally exhausts itself, you emerge to a transformed world. Snow has drifted into fantastic shapes, waves frozen mid-crash, curls and spirals that look carved by an artist's hand. The shelters stand proud, snow-covered but intact. In the distance, new pressure ridges have formed, evidence of the ice's constant movement. But there's damage. The fire pit has been completely buried. Many of the tools left outside have disappeared under snow. And most concerning, one of the breathing holes that seals use is now iced over completely. The community gathers to assess and rebuild. No one complains. You simply begin the work of digging out, salvaging, repairing. The storm was nature speaking. You listened, survived, and now continue. Margaret notes in her journal, Day 34. Major storm survived with 0 casualties, 0 significant damage. Shelter design validated. Community cohesion strengthened. Lesson learned. Preparation and patience overcome even extreme adversity. Days 35 through 45 establish a deeper rhythm. The initial novelty of ice life has worn away. This isn't an adventure anymore. It's simply life. You wake, you work, you eat meager rations, you contribute to community, you sleep, repeat. But within that repetition, beauty emerges. You notice how the light changes throughout the day, painting the ice in subtly different shades. Morning brings blue tones. Afternoon, stark white. Evening, purple and pink if clouds are present. Night, brief but dark, reveals stars in such profusion that the sky seems more light than darkness. You notice sounds. The ice speaks in a dozen different voices, groans, cracks, whispers, songs. You learn to distinguish dangerous sounds from benign ones. You learn to read the frozen sea's moods through its vocalizations. You notice your companions with new depth. William's nervous habit of chewing his lower lip when concentrating. Margaret's small smile when her calculations work out perfectly. Robert's gentle hands, so scarred from forge work, performing delicate repairs with unexpected grace. Catherine's constant awareness of her baby, her eyes tracking him even when engaged in conversation with others. You notice your own changes. Your body has adapted to the cold. You shiver less, tolerate lower temperatures, move with greater efficiency to conserve energy. Your mind has slowed in ways that feel like wisdom rather than dulling. Thoughts are more deliberate. Decisions are more considered. The frantic pace of normal life seems absurd in retrospect. Samuel begins teaching ice fishing during these days. He shows how to cut a hole through 2 feet of ice using saws and patience, how to fashion hooks from bent nails, how to lower lines into the dark water below and wait, sometimes for hours, for the subtle tug that indicates a fish. The first fish caught this way is small, barely enough for one person, but it's divided into 37 equal portions anyway. Everyone tastes it, savoring the fresh flavor, celebrating the new food source. Within days, multiple fishing holes are maintained. People take shifts, learning the patience required. Some days bring no catch. Some days bring several small fish. The unpredictability is frustrating, but also oddly freeing. You can't control the outcome, only the effort. Henry, the miller, discovers he has a talent for fishing. His patience, honed by years of waiting for grain to grind properly, translates perfectly to ice fishing. He can sit motionless for hours, line in hand, absolutely content in the waiting. It's meditative, he explains one evening. When I fish, my mind empties. No worries about food running out. No fear about when we'll reach land. Just the line, the water below, the possibility of a fish. It's the most peace I've felt in years. His words resonate. Many people seek similar peace in their daily tasks. Anne in her sewing, Robert in his tool-making, Margaret in her careful documentation, Catherine in her endless care of James. The ice, in forcing you to slow down, has created space for meditation you never had in your previous lives. Poverty was busy, constant scrambling to survive, to make ends meet, to stay ahead of disaster. Here, disaster has already arrived. Paradoxically, that brings a certain peace. Day 48 brings a visitor. You're outside, checking the fishing lines, when movement catches your eye. Far across the ice, a figure approaches. Human-shaped but strange, wrapped in furs, moving with peculiar grace across the frozen surface. You call out. The shelter's empty. 37 pairs of eyes watch the approaching stranger with mixture of hope, fear, and intense curiosity. As the figure draws nearer, details emerge. It's a man, perhaps 40 years old, his face weathered, almost black by wind and cold. He wears sealskin clothing, expertly sewn, fur-lined boots, and carries a long spear. His eyes are intelligent, cautious, kind. He stops 30 feet from your group and speaks in a language none of you understand. The words sound smooth, flowing, nothing like English or any European tongue you've heard. Samuel steps forward slowly, hands open and empty, showing peaceful intent. He gestures to himself, then to the group, then to the shelters. The stranger watches, absorbing information. Then the stranger does something unexpected. He kneels on the ice, pulls out a small seal oil lamp, and lights it. The gesture is clear, offering warmth, offering peace. This is how his people begin friendly encounters. Robert kneels beside him, pulls out a piece of ship's biscuit, and offers it. The stranger takes it, examines it, takes a tiny bite. His face shows surprise, not at the taste, but at the gesture's meaning. For an hour, communication happens through gestures, drawings in the snow, and patience. You learn that the stranger is from a settlement perhaps 15 miles southeast, the direction you've been drifting. His people hunt this ice field seasonally. He saw your shelters from a distance and came to investigate. Through laborious gesture conversation, Samuel manages to convey your situation. Ship trapped in ice, many people, little food, need help. The stranger's response is clear through his expressions and gestures. He cannot take all of you to his settlement. Too many, too far, too dangerous a journey in your weakened state. But he can bring food, can teach better hunting, can share knowledge that might save you. The stranger visits 3 more times over the next week. Each time he brings gifts, seal meat, fish, knowledge. He shows Robert how to build a more effective seal trap. He teaches Samuel which areas of ice are safe for walking long distances. He shares that a large island with forests and shelter exists approximately 20 miles southeast, exactly where the ice seems to be drifting you. On his final visit, the stranger draws a detailed map in the snow, shows the route from here to his settlement, shows the island, shows how the currents typically move ice in this season. Then he gives a final gift, a small carved charm, seal bone etched with intricate patterns. Through gestures, he conveys, for luck, for protection, for remembering that you are not alone in this frozen world. After he leaves, Thomas holds the charm up for everyone to see. "We're not the first to survive on this ice," he says quietly. "Others have learned to live here, to thrive here. If they can do it for generations, we can do it for weeks. We have more knowledge now, more hope, more certainty that land is reachable." That night, the 3 shelters feel less isolated. You're part of a larger world, connected to other humans who've mastered what you're learning. The loneliness that had been growing, unacknowledged, eases. Days 50 through 60 bring a grinding routine of survival. The stranger's gifts of food provided a crucial buffer, but supplies continue dwindling. Margaret's calculations are stark. With current catch rates from seal hunting and ice fishing, you can sustain current population for perhaps another 30 days before serious starvation begins. But the ice drift continues. Each day the horizon changes slightly. The island the stranger described is definitely getting closer. Thomas and Samuel make regular observations, noting landmarks, estimating distance. 10 miles, Samuel announces on day 57. Maybe less. The island is 10 miles away. We could walk it if we had to. But we don't have to yet, Thomas responds. The ice is carrying us there. Every day the journey gets shorter. We wait until it's 5 miles or less. Then we walk. No sense expending energy and risking lives when patience serves us better. The waiting is hard. You can see land now, actual trees, actual rocks, actual earth. It calls to you. But you trust Thomas's judgment, trust the group's collective wisdom. To pass time and maintain morale, William organizes what he calls ice school. Each person teaches something they know well. Samuel teaches ice safety and weather reading. Margaret teaches basic mathematics and accounting. Anne teaches sewing and clothing repair. Robert teaches metalworking principles. Henry teaches patience through his fishing wisdom. You find yourself teaching something unexpected, storytelling. You share tales from your childhood, folk stories about clever peasants outwitting greedy lords, about honest work being rewarded, about communities surviving through cooperation. The ice school becomes a highlight of each day. It keeps minds sharp, shares knowledge broadly, creates connection beyond mere survival necessity. Children of the future, if any of you have children, will benefit from skills learned here. Catherine's baby James, now over 2 months old, has become the community's treasure. He's passed around during the day, held by different people, giving Catherine chances to rest. His small sounds and occasional smiles provide joy disproportionate to their objective meaning. In a world of gray and white, his living warmth is color itself. On day 60, disaster narrowly avoided. Peter Wright, one of the brothers in your shelter, falls through thin ice while checking fishing lines. He goes completely under, into the dark water beneath. His brother David, without hesitation, lies flat on the ice and reaches down, grabbing Peter's coat and hauling him up through sheer determination and strength. Peter emerges gasping, soaked, already shaking with dangerous cold. The group responds with practiced efficiency. He's stripped of wet clothes, wrapped in dry furs, surrounded by bodies. The shelter's warmth is increased by lighting 2 warming stones instead of 1. For hours, people take turns lying close to Peter, sharing their heat, refusing to let the cold claim him. By morning, Peter has survived. He's weak, exhausted, but alive. The incident reminds everyone how quickly death can strike even in routine tasks. Vigilance cannot lapse. Margaret adds to her journal, Day 60. Near-death experience survived through immediate response and community effort. Lesson reinforced. We survive together or die separately. No middle ground exists here. Days 61 through 70 bring increasing signs that the journey might end soon. The island is clearly closer. You can see details now, individual tree types, rock formations, what looks like a small beach area. The ice has brought you to within perhaps 6 or 7 miles of shore. Thomas calls a meeting on day 68. We need to decide. Do we wait for the ice to carry us closer? Or do we walk now while we still have strength? Margaret, what do supplies look like? Margaret consults her journal. We have approximately 10 days of food remaining at current rations. If we reduce portions further, maybe 15 days. But reduced rations mean reduced strength, which makes walking more dangerous. Samuel, what's your read on the ice between here and shore? Samuel has been observing carefully. The ice is stable, thick, safe for walking, but it's 6 miles of unknown terrain. Pressure ridges, possible weak spots. With 37 people, some weak from hunger, some inexperienced on ice, the crossing will take most of a day, maybe longer. It's risky, but doable. Robert, are people physically capable? Robert considers. Most are. Some are struggling. Peter still recovering from his dunking. Baby James is so small. Eleanor's joints are giving her trouble in the cold. But with help, with slow pace, yes, we can make it. The discussion continues for an hour. Every voice is heard. Every concern is addressed. Finally, consensus emerges. You'll walk tomorrow, at first light, moving slowly and carefully, helping each other across every obstacle. That night, the shelters buzz with preparation. People sort through possessions, deciding what's essential to carry versus what can be left behind. Margaret bundles the most important journal pages. Robert packs critical tools. Everyone prepares mentally for the journey ahead. You find yourself unable to sleep, too full of anticipation. Beside you, William whispers, "Are you scared?" "Yes," you admit, "but also ready. We've been preparing for this for 70 days. We've learned so much. We can do this." "We can," he agrees. "Together we can." In the darkness of the shelter, surrounded by the breathing of your ice family, you feel profound gratitude. These people, strangers 10 weeks ago, have become the most important relationships in your life. You would die for any of them. You suspect they feel the same about you. The ice has forged bonds stronger than any you've known. Day 71. The crossing begins. Everyone wakes before dawn, moving through practiced routines one final time in the shelters. A small fire is built for warmth and symbolism. You're leaving these structures that saved you, and the fire is a farewell blessing. Thomas organizes people into a single file line, strongest at front and back, most vulnerable in the middle. Samuel leads. Robert brings up the rear. Between them, 35 souls, carrying everything essential and nothing extra. Baby James is wrapped in multiple layers of fur and sealskin, then secured in a sling against Catherine's chest. Eleanor leans on a walking stick Robert fashioned for her. Peter, still weak from his near drowning, is positioned where he can be helped if needed. As the pale sun breaks the horizon, the line begins moving. The pace is slow, perhaps 1 mile per hour, but steady. Samuel calls out observations as he walks, warning of uneven ice, pointing out the safest paths. Each person follows exactly in the footprints of the one ahead, trusting their route finding. The first hour passes without incident. The second brings a pressure ridge that requires careful navigation, scrambling over blocks of ice piled 10 feet high. People help each other. Hands reach down from above to pull up those below. No one is left to struggle alone. By midday, you've covered 3 miles. Halfway. The island looms larger, no longer a distant shape, but an approaching reality. You can see a stream cutting through the snow. You can see birds circling above the trees. Life, warmth, safety. The group pauses for rest and a small meal, the last rations from the ice camp, hard biscuit and a tiny portion of dried seal meat. Everyone eats slowly, savoring it, knowing the next meal will hopefully come from the island itself. The afternoon brings exhaustion. Your legs ache. Your lungs burn from breathing cold air for hours. But the island grows closer with each step. 4 miles becomes 3. 3 becomes 2. Then, with perhaps a mile remaining, the ice changes character. It's broken here, fractured into plates separated by narrow channels of open water. The way forward requires jumping from plate to plate, testing stability, trusting your weight to ice that might not hold. Samuel studies the route carefully. "We can do this," he announces, "but one person at a time. If ice breaks, only one person gets wet instead of many. We move slow. We test everything." The crossing begins. Samuel jumps to the first plate, tests it, waves the next person forward. One by one, people make small leaps across dark water, heart pounding, survival instinct screaming warnings. William slips on a landing, barely catching himself. Margaret's foot breaks through thin ice, plunging into water up to her ankle before she pulls it free. Peter freezes with fear, unable to jump, until his brother David crosses back to him and they jump together, hands clasped. Hour by hour, the group navigates the broken ice. Some plates hold easily, others crack and tilt under weight. But each time, someone steadies the frightened person. Each time, knowledge is shared about which ice is safe. Finally, blessedly, the last person, Robert, makes the final jump to the continuous ice shelf connected to the island. The most dangerous section is behind you. The final mile is walked in silence, everyone too exhausted for words. Your feet move automatically, your eyes fix on the shore ahead. The island resolves into details. Rocky beach, dark soil visible where snow has melted, trees that are real, solid, rooted in earth instead of floating on frozen sea. The moment your boot touches land, actual land, your legs nearly give out. The solidity is shocking after 71 days of ice that groaned and shifted beneath you. This ground doesn't move, doesn't speak, simply exists, stable and eternal. Around you, 36 other people experience the same revelation. Some kneel and press their palms to earth. Some collapse completely, lying flat on snow-covered ground that won't crack beneath them. Some cry, some laugh, some simply stand, stunned into stillness. Thomas is last to step off the ice. He turns and looks back across the frozen expanse you traversed. The shelters are invisible from here, left behind, already fading into memory. The ice stretches to the horizon, beautiful and deadly, teacher and adversary. "Thank you," he says quietly to it, "for carrying us, for teaching us, for letting us survive." Then he turns toward the island and says with quiet authority, "We're not done yet. We need shelter before dark. We need fire. We need to hunt. The ice taught us survival. Now the land will teach us living. Let's begin." The group responds immediately, falling into practiced routines. Some gather wood. Some scout for shelter locations. Some search for water sources. The skills learned on ice transfer perfectly to land-based survival. By nightfall, rough shelters stand in the forest. Fires burn, real fires, fed by abundant wood, producing heat without the constant fear of melting your foundation. Fresh water flows from a partially frozen stream. And for the first time in 71 days, you sleep on ground that doesn't shift beneath you, under trees that block the wind, next to a fire that can burn through the night without endangering anything. The transition from ice to land is more jarring than the transition from ship to ice was. Your mind needs time to adjust, but you're safe. You're alive. All 37 souls who froze into the ice have walked out of it. Well, 36. Baby James represents 37, but he was born to the ice in a sense, conceived before, but delivered into this frozen world. He's a child of both ship and ice and land, a living symbol of adaptation. The next weeks on the island establish new rhythms. Days are spent improving shelters, hunting, gathering, preparing for whatever comes next. Robert builds a forge using beach stones, creating tools from salvaged ship metal. Samuel and Henry become expert hunters, bringing down rabbits, birds, even a small deer. Margaret continues documenting everything, her journal now including detailed descriptions of island resources and survival techniques. William, showing leadership qualities none expected, organizes an expedition around the island's perimeter. It takes 3 days to complete the circuit, and the findings are illuminating. The island is perhaps 5 miles across, uninhabited except for your group, rich with resources, and separated from the mainland by approximately 2 miles of water. "We could build boats," William suggests. "Come spring, when the ice breaks up, we could sail to the mainland, find civilization, get real rescue." Thomas considers this. "Or we could wait here. The indigenous man who helped us knows we exist. His people might return. We have food, water, shelter. We could survive winter here, then make decisions in spring." The group discusses options over several evenings. Some want to push forward immediately, seeking civilization. Others prefer waiting, recovering strength, preparing more carefully. Eventually, a compromise emerges. You'll spend the winter on the island, building strength and resources. Come spring, you'll reassess. The decision brings peace. You're not frozen in indecision, but you're not rushing toward danger either. The ice taught you patience. That lesson serves you still. Life on the island is hard but manageable. Food is adequate. Hunting and fishing provide protein. Edible plants supplement the diet. Shelter is weatherproof. The forest provides limitless wood for building and heating. Water is abundant. The stream never fully freezes. But it's not comfortable. The cold remains intense. Work is constant. Illness strikes occasionally. Anne develops a cough that persists for weeks. Peter's feet show signs of frostbite damage. Eleanor's joints grow more painful daily. Yet morale remains surprisingly high. You've survived the impossible. Compared to 71 days on the ice with dwindling supplies, the island feels like luxury. Catherine's baby James thrives in the relatively warmer, more stable environment. He's growing, developing, becoming more responsive. His laughter, rare but precious, brings joy to everyone. Margaret calculates that the group consumed approximately 800 pounds of food during the ice days, roughly 22 pounds per person over 10 weeks. We were at the edge of starvation, she notes. Another 2 weeks on the ice and we would have started dying. The drift brought us here exactly when we needed it to. Whether luck, providence, or simply the natural working of ocean currents, the timing saved you. As winter deepens, the shelters become homes. Each of the 3 groups develops distinct personalities. The first shelter, led by a man named Jonathan Reed, focuses on discipline and routine, schedules for everything, assigned roles, military-like precision. The second shelter, guided by Eleanor and Samuel, emphasizes family-like care. People are encouraged to express emotions, share concerns, lean on each other. Your third shelter, under Thomas's gentle leadership, balances both approaches: structure when needed, flexibility when appropriate. All 3 shelters function well. Different approaches suit different people. The diversity strengthens the overall community. One evening, as snow falls gently outside, Samuel tells a story you haven't heard before. "My grandfather," he begins, his voice soft in the firelight, "was on a whaling ship that got trapped in Arctic ice for an entire winter. 18 months they survived. When they finally escaped, only half the crew remained alive. The others had died of scurvy, starvation, cold, and despair." He pauses, letting the story settle. "My grandfather said the ones who survived had one thing in common. They found purpose beyond mere survival. Some taught each other skills. Some organized games and competitions. Some studied the ice and stars. But none of the survivors just sat waiting for death. They lived deliberately while waiting for life. The parallel is obvious. Your group has done exactly that, living deliberately through teaching, learning, documenting, connecting." "What happened to them?" William asks, "after they escaped?" Samuel smiles. "Most returned to whaling, went right back to the Arctic. My grandfather said, once you survive the ice, ordinary life feels impossibly tame. You crave the clarity that comes from facing death every day. The ice changes you, makes you incapable of taking anything for granted. You understand this completely. You've noticed it in yourself. Food tastes more intense. Warmth feels more precious. Simple conversations carry more weight. The ice has made you more alive somehow, more present, more aware of each moment's value. Spring arrives slowly, subtly, in small signs easy to miss if you're not watching. The days lengthen, the stream's ice thins. Birds that disappeared in deep winter return in small flocks. Friendships are tested. The question, "What do I truly want?" proves harder to answer than anyone expected. You struggle with the decision yourself. Part of you wants to return to civilization, see what became of the life you left behind. But another part has grown deeply attached to this community, this place, this slower way of living. Finally, sitting beside the evening fire, you announce your decision. You'll stay. The island has become home. These people have become family. Whatever awaits in civilization can wait indefinitely or forever. Thomas smiles when you tell him. "I'm staying too," he confesses. "I'm tired of sailing towards something." Here, I've found what I was seeking without realizing I was seeking it. Purpose, community, a life lived deliberately instead of desperately. By late spring, the divisions are clear. 20 people will attempt the mainland crossing, led by William and Margaret. 17 will remain, led by Thomas and Samuel. Catherine and baby James will stay. Eleanor will stay. Robert, surprisingly, will go. He wants to find his children left with relatives in England, try to bring them here, or at least say proper goodbyes. The goodbyes will be painful but necessary. The day the boats launch is bright, clear, and emotionally complicated. The 17 who are staying gather on the beach to see the 20 off. Supplies are loaded: dried meat, fresh water, emergency rations. The boats sit in shallow water, sleek and ready. Margaret approaches you with her journals. "Take these," she says, pressing 3 volumes into your hands. "If something happens to us out there, the record survives. Everything we learned on the ice, everything we've built here, it's all documented. Share it if you can. Teach it if possible." You accept the precious cargo, throat tight with emotion. "Come back someday," you manage. "Tell us what you found." "We will. This isn't goodbye forever, just until we meet again." William hugs you, a fierce, desperate embrace. "Thank you," he whispers, "for everything, for teaching me patience, for showing me that survival isn't about being strong, it's about being steady. I'll carry that forward." One by one, the 20 load into the boats. Paddles are lifted. Thomas gives a final blessing. "May the sea be gentle. May your journey be safe. May you find what you seek. And may you always remember the ice that made us family." The boats push off. They move slowly across the calm water, growing smaller with distance. You watch until they're specks on the horizon, then until they vanish completely around a distant headland. Then you turn back to the island, your home now, fully and completely. Life settles into new rhythms with the reduced group. 17 people require less food, less space, less organization. But 17 people also means less labor, less diversity of skills, less social complexity. The balance must be reestablished. Thomas reorganizes the settlement. The 3 shelters are consolidated into one larger, more permanent structure. Work teams are reformed. New routines are established. You find yourself taking on leadership roles you never expected. With Margaret gone, someone needs to maintain documentation. You're elected. With Robert gone, someone needs to manage tool maintenance. You volunteer. Catherine becomes the settlement's heart, caring for James, yes, but also tending to everyone's emotional needs, noticing when people are struggling, offering quiet support. Eleanor and Samuel, the oldest members, become honored advisors. Their experience guides decisions. Their stories preserve history. Their presence reassures that age and wisdom still matter. The summer passes in productive work. Gardens are planted using seeds saved from ship stores, mostly root vegetables and hardy herbs, but they grow surprisingly well in the island's thin soil. Fish traps are constructed in the stream, providing reliable protein. The forest is selectively harvested for wood, always taking care to leave enough trees for regeneration. By autumn, the settlement feels established. You have food stores for winter. You have a sturdy building with a proper fireplace. You have routines that work. You have community that sustains. And then, one September morning, a boat appears on the horizon. For a moment, your heart leaps. William and Margaret returning? But as the vessel draws closer, you realize it's different, larger, a proper ship, not a kayak. The ship drops anchor offshore. A longboat is launched. 6 people row toward the beach. The rescue you stopped waiting for has arrived. The ship is a trading vessel out of Halifax, captained by a Norwegian named Henrik Larsson. He explains through surprisingly good English that indigenous hunters mentioned a group of Europeans on this island. Word eventually reached Halifax. The Maritime Society, remembering the lost Caravela Maria's Grace, funded a rescue expedition. "We thought you'd all be dead," Captain Larson admits. "When the ship was reported frozen 2 years ago, we assumed, well, no one survives that. But here you are, 17 of you, alive, healthy. It's extraordinary." Thomas corrects him gently. 37 of us survived the ice. 20 left this spring for the mainland. We stayed by choice. This is our home now. Larson looks confused. "You don't want rescue?" "We don't need rescue," Thomas clarifies. "We've already rescued ourselves. But we appreciate the contact. We'd welcome trade opportunities, mail service if possible, perhaps periodic supply runs. But we're staying." The captain processes this. "I need to report back to Halifax. They'll want to know you're alive, you're safe, you're—" He gestures at the settlement, the gardens, the sturdy building, thriving, apparently. "Report what you like," Thomas says, "but make it clear. We survived 71 days on the ice by learning patience, community, and living unhurried. Those lessons don't stop applying just because we're on land. We've built something here. We're not abandoning it for the chaos of civilization." Captain Larson stays 3 days, trading supplies for fish and seal skins, documenting the settlement, interviewing people about the ice survival. He's particularly interested in Margaret's journals, which you show him. "This is invaluable," he breathes, reading her detailed observations. "Arctic survival knowledge is scarce. This could save countless lives." "Then take it," you offer. "Have it copied. Share it. That's what Margaret wanted, for the lessons to spread beyond us." The captain arranges for the journals to be copied in Halifax and returned with the next supply ship. When he departs, he leaves you with newspapers, letters of credit that can be traded for supplies, and a promise to return next summer with news and goods. The 17 of you stand on the beach watching the ship disappear, and you realize something profound. You're not isolated anymore. You're connected to the broader world, but on your terms. The island isn't a prison. It's a choice. Years pass in peaceful succession. The settlement grows slowly. A second building is constructed. Gardens expand. Hunting and fishing techniques improve. The 17 original residents age together, weathering storms, celebrating small joys, living the unhurried life the ice taught you. Captain Larson returns annually, bringing news and supplies, taking letters and goods in trade. Through him, you learn that William and Margaret reached the mainland safely. They traveled to Halifax, then on to England. Margaret published a book about the ice survival that became quite famous. William married, had children, prospered. Through Larson, letters arrive. Margaret writes long, detailed accounts of life in civilization. The rush, the noise, the constant pressure to move faster, produce more, compete harder. "I miss the ice," she confesses in one letter. "I miss the clarity of survival. I miss knowing that what I did each day mattered absolutely. Here, everything feels diluted, meaningless, rushed. I dream of returning to the island someday." Robert's letter is shorter. "Found my children. They're grown, with families of their own. They barely remembered me. I've told them stories about the ice, about the community we built. They think I'm romanticizing hardship. Maybe I am. But I've never felt more alive than I did on the ice, more purposeful than I do remembering it. Give my regards to everyone. Tell them I think of them daily." The letters are treasured, read aloud at gatherings, preserved carefully. New people occasionally join the settlement. A few sailors who visit and decide to stay. 2 indigenous families who become neighbors and friends, teaching advanced hunting and survival skills. A young couple fleeing poverty, seeking simpler life. But the core 17 remain. You age together. Catherine's James grows into a strong young man, the first child of the ice settlement. Samuel and Eleanor pass peacefully in their sleep, one winter night, hands joined. Their burial is simple, dignified, exactly what they would have wanted. Thomas, grayed and slowed but still sharp, continues providing quiet leadership until his own death at 73. You speak at his funeral, talking about the man who taught 37 souls that survival comes through patience, not panic. The ice could have killed us, you say to the gathered community, now numbering nearly 40 with additions over the years. Instead, it taught us. And Thomas ensured we learned the lessons. That we lived slowly enough to survive. That we cared for each other completely. That we built something lasting from temporary hardship. His legacy isn't just that we survived, it's that we learned to live deliberately. You live to 81 years old, longer than most peasants of your generation. The island life, clean air, good food, meaningful work, strong community, sustains you in ways poverty never could. In your final years, you spend time writing addendums to Margaret's journals, updating the survival knowledge with decades of additional experience. You document the settlement's growth, the lessons learned, the ways that ice survival principles apply to all of life. Your last entry, written with shaking hands, reads, "I came north seeking land and opportunity. The ice gave me something better, understanding. I learned that survival isn't about fighting against adversity, it's about adapting to it. I learned that community isn't just helpful for survival, it's the point of survival. I learned that living slowly isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The Caravela cracked in the frozen sea, and that breaking open revealed truths I'd never have found otherwise. I die grateful for the ice, for the people it bound me to, for the life it taught me to live. May others learn from our story. When the world freezes around you, don't panic. Slow down. Trust your companions. Move unhurried but forward. The ice will release you when it's ready. Your only job is to be ready when it does." You pass peacefully, surrounded by the ice family. Catherine, now elderly, holding your hand. James, middle-aged and strong, speaking words of comfort. The others who've shared this journey, offering presents. They bury you on a hillside overlooking the frozen sea, facing southeast, the direction you drifted, the direction that saved you. The settlement continues. Your story continues. The lessons continue. Margaret's published journals ensure that the tale of the Caravela Maria's Grace spreads widely. The story becomes a case study in survival psychology, in community dynamics, in patient crisis response. But more than academic interest, it becomes something else. A reminder that when life freezes your progress, the answer isn't panic, it's patience, it's community, it's living unhurried through the crisis, until movement becomes possible again. The ice cracked the ship, but it couldn't crack the spirits of 37 peasants who understood that survival is slow work, community work, patient work. If you found peace in this story of unhurried survival, subscribe to our channel for more contemplative tales from history's quiet heroes. These are stories designed to calm anxious minds, teach through gentle narrative, and help you drift into restful sleep. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us for more journeys into serene survival against impossible odds. Sleep well, live slow, and remember, the frozen sea taught 37 souls that patience conquers panic. That lesson remains true wherever you find yourself today. Thank you for listening.